about mental health and your idea of mental health from your perspective and from a counselling perspective. So mental health is so much more talked about now than it was. So I want to get your perspective on how it was when you were sort of in college, and obviously my perspective on what it was like in college just 10 years ago. So to see whether we've changed sort of as well as we all think we've changed, really.
Back in my day, so we're talking 34 years ago, because I'm 50 now. So when I was 16, back in the day, long time ago, we'd have heard the word counselling or mental health, maybe. I don't think it really wasn't around that much, but I remember someone in my class at college was struggling, and the tutor just didn't know what to do. Basically, pull yourself together. You've got nothing to worry about. I couldn't even tell you back in the day if there was a counsellor on site. I don't know. It wasn't talked about. So even if there was one, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
And if anyone did talk about how they were feeling, they were ridiculed and by staff as well. I'm not just saying just students. Yeah. And so no one talked about it, because why would you if people are going to take the mickey out of you? So even if people were struggling, they're not going to talk about it.
No.
So we just got to go home.
Did anyone ever talk? Did people talk between themselves? Like students sort of look after each other rather than, or was it just what sort of was a bad day, or did no one really know that actually it's a, like we always say, it's okay not to be okay? Was it not okay to be not okay them days?
Yeah. So if someone was sort of displaying any sort of upset, it was they'll sort it out, snap out of it. Or if anyone was really frustrated or angry, they were said, oh, it's bad behaviour.
Yeah.
So they were just put aside, either put into a different class, or they were sent home for a couple of days, suspended or whatever. And who knows what they were suffering with at the time. No one ever talked about it. No one ever asked about it. They were just said, oh, they're just the naughty kids.
Yeah.
And they might have been naughty, but at the same time, they might have had a lot of stuff going on for them, which they couldn't work out. And who then do they go and talk to about why they were feeling so angry? They just knew they were angry, or frustrated, or sad, or whatever it was. So, a lot different to, I hope, how it is now.
Yeah, and I mean, even like sort of from my perspective, I mean, I was at college 10 years ago, and even then, there was a counsellor on site, but it wasn't promoted the way that we promote it. Like it wasn't an induction. You weren't told how to speak to them, or on every sort of thing when you log onto the computer, it's shared on the internet and all those things on how to report anything. Whereas with us, it was, there's a counsellor on site, and if you ever went and sought that support, then yes, you were shown where they were, but it wasn't advertised as much as it is now. Even 10 years ago, I think staff and the students still didn't get it. It was still, if you were having a rubbish day, or someone, I mean, I lived in at college, so you sort of noticed whether, Fred from down next door never got out of bed until 12 o'clock, and me being who I am, I noticed that, and I'd knock on my way past and be like, you all right, and check in on them on an evening when I knew that they were up, but no staff member was there knocking on their door being like, hi, you all right? And it's easier because we lived in, so staff did, if you missed a lesson, staff came, generally either rung you or popped down, sent a warden down and was like, get up, so you couldn't get away with not going into college. But no, when it was sort of, it just wasn't getting up for no reason and he couldn't give a reason, it was like, oh, well, I'm a bit scared of that topic, so I'm not going to go down. He's naughty, he's not coming to college. But actually, there was a reason behind that, and he was really struggling, and he ended up leaving college after a few months because he just couldn't cope with being away from home and nobody supporting him. But actually, if someone had gone down in that first couple of weeks and been like, do you want to talk about anything? Or maybe as if, you do sort of think, and again, I overthink things, but I think, if I'd have done more, but again, I was only 16, so I couldn't have helped him. at that point in my life. But now when you move on, you think, oh, and you notice, don't you? You think about all the people that you've met in your life and think, actually, I probably could have done more for that person. And maybe they needed me to be the person that I am 10 years down the line. But do you know what I mean? So even 10 years ago, I think it was so different to what it is now. And I think a lot of, our students are really lucky that they've got, the amount of people that support them, because not just the counselling service, there's the guidance services, there's me, there's the learner coaches, any member of staff, I think, is equipped to sort of deal with it now, or they know where to go. If they're not equipped personally, but they don't shy away from it, they take that student to the right person, don't they? So I think they're real lucky.
So when you were at college 10 years ago and you knew where the counsellor lived, let's say in that office down there is where you go, if anyone was seen walking down to talk to the counsellor, did anybody put a stigma on them? Did they say, oh, what are they going down there for?
Yeah, I think some students did, and generally it was generally the students that don't. It was more it wasn't out of nastiness, it was more out of ignorance to that. Maybe as they had been, a lot of it came from, the agricultural lads. I mean, we went to an agricultural college. It was the agricultural lads that had been brought up, by that sort of generation, where there is still a generation now that doesn't understand it. My dad doesn't understand it. He accepts it. And if I talk to him about if I'm struggling, he's like, he gets it, but you can almost see him be really uncomfortable. So I think those lads weren't being nasty, but they were ignorant to what that person was going through. So it was like, oh, Jess goes down there all week, every once a week. What's she going down there for? What's she getting? And they turn it into like a joke and be like, maybe do you know what I mean? Like 16-year-olds do. So it wasn't necessarily stigmatized, but you did notice the ones that went down there on a regular basis. Whereas I don't think it came from nastiness so much, and I don't think now it comes from nastiness. It's not obviously it hurts for the person that's going through it, but I do think a lot of it is it's that ignorance, or it's the fact that they're probably struggling, but they don't want to open up, so they mask it by being overly masculine, or like, oh, I've got no problems, whereas actually they probably have got a lot of problems, but they're just not at that point in their life where they can talk about it. And
do you think then that from your experience it stopped others going to visit the counsellor because they didn't want to be talked about?
Yeah, I think if there was, I mean, in our group of friends, if someone in that group of friends that was, I mean, obviously we lived in, so we spent a lot more time with each other than the students that came on a daily basis. But if there was someone in that group of friends when all the lads were, taking the mick or saying something, would you want to be the one that stood up and said, well, actually, I need to go see that person? No, you wouldn't. Oh. But fortunately for our group of friends, there was, a very good mix between girls and boys, because we all lived together. So if someone was struggling, and there was obviously there was people like me or like some of my friends that would, pick up on those things, and we didn't take the mick, but some of the lads did. But you can also see why, if one of the lads felt like that, they wouldn't step up and be like, oh, because they'd be like, well, them lot are all going to take the mick at me, so I'm not going.
Yeah. So you can see that, can't you? You can see. Luckily, in your experience, Jodie, you had quite a supportive friendship group. Not everyone would have had that. No. And so if they see, especially if, they're not particularly great socially or whatever, and you can see people getting talked about, even if it's good or bad being talked about, walking down the corridor to the counsellor, they're not going to put themselves out there, are they? They're going to think, oh, no, I won't bother. No, I think that's something we've really got to think about at our college. Luckily, well, certainly now, because it's all online, so no one has a clue who's seeing who. But our therapy room at Beverley is on the top floor, so that nobody knows. Hardly no students practically go on that top floor, so you wouldn't know who was waiting to see the counsellor. And the same at Bridlington, it is tucked away.
So obviously, I didn't want to talk too much about the current situation in COVID-19, but obviously it has affected everybody in some form. No matter who you are, it's affected you in some way. And do you feel like the effects of COVID-19 on young people's mental health is talked about? Because I know there's a lot of campaigns going on at the minute. Somebody that I'm in contact with is Dr. Alex he was in Love Island, but he also works in A&E and things like that. And he's doing a current campaign about the fact that mental health should be put on the curriculum in secondary schools and primary schools, and that we should be offering more counselling sessions and therapy sessions in those schools and colleges after the pandemic, because he thinks that, you know, young people's mental health is going to go down because of, you know, loneliness and all those things that we're all feeling as adults, but also young people are feeling. But do you think we've sort of gone where? Do you think we can come back from this, as in like young people's mental health, or do you think possibly it's been a years long thing that's going to take us so many years to come back from, because it's going to affect everybody, but young people, I know that's loads of questions all in one, but it's just
which one do you want me to answer first? It's been a tough one. It's nearly a year, eh? And so much is happening for so many people, so much horrible stuff is happening for so many people. We're only talking about the other day, Jodie, weren't we, that if someone's diagnosed with COVID, people automatically assume, because of the media, obviously they have to report the news and everything, but if someone's got COVID, they automatically think, right, I'm on a ventilator.
Yeah.
You know, there's no, you know, in between. And I think that's affected a lot of young people. So I know some young people that when they were told their mum or dad or gran or whoever had COVID, they instantly thought they were going to die.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the reality of, and adults anyway. You know, I know people who got it and instantly thought, that's me, you know.
The thing is, not only is that an awful thought to have, but that's a traumatic thought to have, isn't it? You know, you go through, whether you know that, but if you genuinely believe that somebody's going to die, or it's that feeling of, you know, I mean, I know in my life I've had loved ones that have suffered from like cancer and like my granddad's got dementia, and we all know that is a lifelong, he's ultimately going to die from that. So you do process those things in your head. So if you're just told one day someone's got COVID-19 and the first thing that you go to is they're going to die, you process all those things of like, well, how am I going? You go start that grief process, don't you? And actually, that's a traumatic experience for you and for your brain to go through. So the fact that people are possibly doing that several times in the last year, because, you know, I mean, personally, I don't know anybody that's like in my loved ones that's had it. I don't know anyone that's tested positive for it. So I haven't done that, but I still have that fear of, you know, making sure that I'm safe. I mean, I look after my granddad, so I'm obviously, you know, before I go in, I always make sure that everything's clean and everything's, you know, I've washed my hands like a million times, and then I get to his house and I'm like washing them again, and that's traumatic just thinking about that. So the fact that people's brains are going straight to, oh, that's it, granddad's going to die or mum's going to die, you know, that's something that they've then got to get over. If they don't, you know, if they don't die, because a lot of people get over it and that, you know what I mean, get through it and are fine afterwards. They just need a couple of days at home and it's sort of gone. So it's something that's going to stay with a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. Maybe there should be more promotion about people that do get over it.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, that's what the media should be looking at, or us as a college should be looking at. I don't know. You know, goes without saying, it's been a horrendous year. All our norms have been taken away. Everything that we took for granted has been taken away, really, or moved or shifted.
Yeah, and I was just about to say, although it's been a really terrible year, I personally, and I know like you're the same, we've had this discussion loads of times, but to take the positive from it, because I am the person that tries to take the positive from most things, but I think we will be so much more grateful for so much, you know, like the fact that that day that I can walk into my mum and dad's house and give them a cuddle, and walk into your house and give you a cuddle, it'll be like the best day in the world. And all it is a cuddle, but we've not been able to do that for so long. And I just think, hopefully, and I really, really do hope that everybody will take a positive from it and actually be grateful for the things that we do have and forget about these you know, the latest phones and the latest trainers, because does that matter? In COVID-19, did that matter? No, because no one saw them. No one cared what phone you had. It's just, we do really need to take, I personally hope that everybody takes that from someone, you know, just enjoys being in people's company so much more, because I think we do take, you know, we take friends for granted, don't we? It's like, oh no, I'm really busy, I can't come, I'm working late, or I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And actually, how much would we give now to be able to just go and see a friend that we've not seen for a long time?
Yeah, we were talking about this the other day, weren't we, about I really hope for me, as well as everyone else, that I remember what I craved, you know, just to give you a ring and say, do you want to go for a cup of tea, or do you want to pop round or whatever, or ring whoever and say, fancy going for some tea somewhere, do you fancy popping and getting a pizza somewhere? And we just took it all for granted, because why wouldn't we? Because it's been around all our lives, so why wouldn't we take it for granted? But I just really hope I and everybody else that I know remembers how it was when we couldn't do that.
Yeah.
You know, and we're all, you know, we've all, well, me and hubby have woke up really bored today.
Yeah.
Really bored. Not bored of work, you know, because we've got loads of stuff to do at work and everything, but bored of the routine.
Yeah, and I saw something on social media the other day, and because I found this lockdown way worse than any of the rest of the year, but I think that's because we are living one day after another. It's the same day, no matter whether you try and go on a different route on your walk, or no matter how many times I go over the road and give the horse an apple, it doesn't matter. I wake up every day and know what I'm going to do, because there's only them 4 small things that I'm able to do. So no matter which way around I do it, it's the same day.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's
it is that. It's absolutely that. Like that groundhog thing.
Yeah.
So you know, what do? Well, we wake up, we log on, we see what's happening on Teams. Okay, we'll have our breakfast. Okay, what do we do now? All right. You know, let's see what teaching I've got today, what's seeing, you know, and it's just we want something different. We want to do something different. So yeah, when we come out of this, however it looks, whatever, let's hope that we think, like you said, trainers don't matter, you know. And when, you know, some people got conditions of work around money and stuff like that, and I include myself in that to a point around, you know, we've got to earn more money and I want a bigger house or on a bigger car or better car or whatever. None of those things matter right now, in the here and now. None of those things matter. Just
sort of going back to us living like every day the same, but how hard must that be for young people? I know that as a young person, the thing that I craved the most was, I want to go out and I want to go see my friends. And the fact that they're not able, because we as adults have found it hard, but we understand it from an adult's point of view, that, you know,
we're still bored of it, even though we're a bit more, well, we'd hope a bit more adult about it, even though our child, obviously, we're but imagine being 15, 16, and you go to college to see your friends, you go out to youth club or wherever you go, park, wherever, pub, whatever, to see your friends, and maybe that's your only time where you feel safe.
Yeah.
Because you don't feel safe for whatever reason at home, you don't like being at home. Imagine that. So we've took that away. COVID's took that away.
And that's what I mean. I like, are we, and that's what, like, Dr. Alex is saying, are we doing enough for those kids that, because we sort of, you do it, and I know that I've thought, God, especially when it first started, God, 16, not having to go to college, sit at home on my computer all day. Right. You know, we think, oh my God, that's amazing. But is it? Is it amazing? No, it's not. It probably was really nice for some young people for a small amount of time. But now we're a year on, and they've had like 3 months out of the year where they've been able to socialise, and even that wasn't normal socialising, because we was on at them like, put a mask on, make sure you're socially distanced. Do you know what I mean? And we're doing that for the safety of them and the safety of their families. But I'm sure at some point, everyone, like we do, everyone just wants to be like, shut up, stop nagging at me, because we get it from social media, you get it from the news. No, you cannot go 24 hours without hearing the word coronavirus. You can't. Lastly, because we've answered my last question. My last question was sort of, what do you think what stops people from talking about the mental health? And I think we covered that sort of in the first one, in regards to like stigma and the fact that they don't want to be that person that, you know, going to see the counsellor and things like that.
But let's be positive about that though, because a lot more talk about it now.
Yeah,
more
absolutely.
About it, and there's less of a stigma. Well, I hope so. You'd have to talk to a 16-year-old about that, but
exactly. I do personally, from obviously work. I mean, I've worked at the college now for this is my coming up to my 4th year, and I've definitely even seen a difference from the first year that I worked there to now. You know, the amount of people that it's not young people coming to you and telling you a problem, and we are saying, well, we've got a college counsellor and blah 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 blah. It's people coming and saying, can I have a referral form?
Yeah.
I need to speak to somebody.
Yeah.
Young people now are recognising that actually I need to speak to somebody, and it's not a case of we're encouraging that. It's obviously we are encouraging it, but we're not the ones that are bringing that up in topic. They're coming to us and saying, I need to speak to someone, and I recognise that in myself, which I think is a massive positive.
It's a massive step, that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you feel poor mental health is something that everybody struggles with at some point in their life?
Does everyone suffer? Yes, I absolutely believe that. We all need support from time to time. Yes, I absolutely believe that. Whether we admit it to ourselves is another matter, but I do think everybody struggles with their mental health.
Yeah.
Some more than others, and it comes and goes depending on all sorts of things go on in our bodies. And I believe with you that if this isn't right, then that's not right. If that's not right, this isn't right, and they're very connected.
Have you got any top tips about how to look after mental health?
Definitely exercise, and just listen to yourself. Think about what works for you, because everybody's different. If it's listening to music, reading, running, watching films, watching Netflix, I don't know, being creative. I've seen a lot of young people on social media being really creative, and that's their get out. You know, whether it's drawing, writing.
Yeah.
A lot of people turn to meditation or yoga or mindfulness. You know, whatever suits that person, that individual, just do it.
Yeah. Yes, it's individualized, isn't it? It doesn't matter, like you say, what works for us doesn't necessarily work for everyone else. But obviously we've given everybody some tips that they can maybe try and see whether they like it. And I'm definitely going to binge watch some Netflix at the weekend, so
Me too.
I'll try. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, love. Bye bye.